Oh, always needs to be said, right? Good morning, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Good afternoon. It's 12:01 on the East Coast. Good morning for those of you guys who are not on the East Coast and joining us from wherever. Good evening to our EMEA friends. Hopefully you have a pint or a cocktail or a gin and tonic, which I currently cannot enjoy as I am 7 months pregnant, but I will be joining you soon for a Friday happy hour in a mere 2 months. Thank you guys so much for joining. Really, really excited to talk about all things prospecting today. For those of you who are new to me and to the Sam Sales team, welcome. Very, very excited to have you. I am Sam McKenna. I'm the CEO of #SamSales. I am also joined by Catherine Kirk on our team, who serves as our Director of Client Success and our Chief of Staff, and about 48 other hats. Welcome to the startup life. And Josie as well, who does all the exciting things of being a BDR. So if you are a BDR, shout out to Josie, because man, does she have a really tough job. We want to hear from you in the chat. Please say hello. Tell us where you're joining from. Tell us what you're hopeful to learn out of today. If you did not get your questions submitted in advance, we'd love to know. Kind of a few more things, and then we'll jump into everything. Number one, this will be recorded, so feel free to grab access to it afterwards. It'll also be on our website, so if you want to share it around, that's awesome. In perfect marketing timing, we're also releasing our prospecting playbook today, which actually went live last night. But if you get value out of today, you're going to see a link to also grab the playbook at a 10% discount. So you'll see that coming up in just a second. It is 45 pages. That is sure to put you to sleep, in addition to everything that you're going to learn today. Obviously, some of it will be repetitive, but hopefully you guys will get a lot of great stuff out of today's presentation. If you are new to me, you'll also see that I speak really quickly. So you might want to come and grab the recording later, but we'll try to address all of your questions and get as much value as we possibly can in our 60 minutes today. Finally, if you have questions that you didn't submit, feel free to use the Q&A widget. Catherine and Josie will be looking out for that today. We have a bunch of questions that came in already, so we might not have time to address them all. If you got something super spicy and you want us to cover, we'll jump into that. And finally, who is Sam Sales? We're an all-women team of 14. We are located halfway around the world, from Hawaii in the United States and 2 people in the UK and everything in between. And we do everything from sales consultancy, building brands on LinkedIn, prospecting, training. There's a few other things in there that we do, so feel free to give us a shout if we can ever be of help. Without further ado, let's jump into it. So prospecting the Sam Sales way. I talked about this in a post yesterday, but really thinking about, what does this word even mean? How do we do it? And how do we do it systematically, right? I think when I got started into sales, I just started to kind of Sherlock Holmes it, right? And that's what I think prospecting is. It is a massive game of Sherlock Holmes. We're looking for clues, we're sleuthing, we're having conversations, we're going to conferences, we're going to networking events, we're hopefully social selling, doing all kinds of things, all of which are prospecting. But how do we build a process around this? And how do we make sure that we're doing the right things first? So I want to talk about a couple of things to get us started. One, we're going to cover 6 things before we get into Q&A, which hopefully I will get through in the first 30 minutes. But number one, thinking about prospecting goes to the very first interview question that I ask every single AE that I talk to. When I think about this interview question, this is an easy way for me to figure out, do you have a process around prospecting or not so much? So the question that I ask is, Catherine, super excited to have you. Thanks for interviewing with us. I have a question for you. Let's say when you come on board to Sam Sales, one of the accounts that we want you to dive into is DuPont. We've been trying to win business with DuPont for 4 years. We've been trying to win business with DuPont for 4 years. And so far, no success. So we would love to know, what's your process? How would you crack that account open? Tell us a little bit about that. And what we're looking for is a very specific answer. What I'm looking for is a specific answer. What we traditionally get when we get that answer is something that sounds like this. Well, I'm going to open up the account. I'm going to see who I know. I'm going to find the buyer personas. I'll send them some messaging using Outreach or SalesLoft or whatever it might be. And then I'll sell them more stuff. And I'm like, cool. Sales is that easy, eh? What I'm really looking for is someone who's going to say, here's the process that I run through. So first and foremost, I do this and I exhaust that. Second, I do this and I exhaust that, and so forth. So what is the first thing I'm looking for? First thing that I'm looking for is true to the Sam Sales mantra of show me, you know me, which is show me, you know the account. So the first thing I'm going to get an AE to tell me to do is, well, I'm going to look at the opportunities that we've had so far. I'm going to dig into Salesforce or CRM of choice. I'm going to look to see everything that we've done with that account so far. Have we had opportunities? Are they closed won? Are they closed lost? Are they closed canceled? Have we done any work with them? Did they churn after they used us for a while? What can I figure out about the account? So the first thing I would tell you from a prospecting perspective is look for the closeds first. Number one, I'm looking for the closed ones. Are those existing? Do we have relationships there? Have we done any work with them? Have we won that deal, but they've now churned? What's the status of those? A lot of times reps will have accounts where there's closed won work that's being done already, or even that closed won work is being done with another line of business, another product suite, or maybe it's our products that exist now, but it's already with an AM and now it's our job to expand. So what do we know about the closed ones first and foremost? Then the exciting stuff comes in the closed lost and the closed canceled. Those closed lost and cancels are really telling. Do we have 17 of those in an account? Are they all with the same person, right? The same buyer? Why haven't we been able to get something across the line yet? What I'm actually looking for in those beyond that is that person still there? Are they still in the same role? Have they been promoted or have they changed jobs? The they that I'm talking about there is the person that's associated with the contract. So if I'm selling, let's say to Catherine, and she's a VP of sales somewhere, I'm looking at Catherine who's attached to that contract record, and I'm saying, what happened to Catherine? Is she still there? Has she been promoted? Is she in another line of business? Is she gone? Did she change jobs in my territory? Can I reach out to her and spark a conversation? If you start there, right, that's what I want to know that an AE is doing. Before they do anything else, I want to know that they're looking at what they've done and that what we've done in that account, and that they're starting there as a framework. So start there. Now, quick bonus move. And all the stuff that we talk about today, I would tell you, create your own little CRM so you have a one-page view of everything you're working on. I am very old school and I like Google Sheets, not Excel, but Google Sheets. And I keep everything in there, tabs, accounts, who I'm reaching out to. I want one place that's just my own mini CRM. And PS, when I leave at some point, decades from now, from wherever you're working, I can take that information with me. So start there. Second, what do we do? Who do we know? Now, you're going to look at this and think, is she really telling me that a tip of how I crack into my accounts is looking at who I know in the accounts? And I'm saying, yes. Why? Because we talk to a lot of reps who say, I'm trying to crack into DuPont. I haven't been able to get in there. What do you suggest? And I say, sweet, who do you know there? And the rep says, that's a great idea. Let me look. And I'm like, dear God. So here's what I would tell you. If you have not yet looked, this is in all this stuff, by the way, is super easy to do in Sales Navigator. Definitely recommend that you guys have it. If you don't and your company doesn't pay for it, yes, it is expensive. It is so worth the cost. So definitely spring for it yourself, but quickly check in there, right? If you go into Sales Navigator, or if you even just go to LinkedIn.com, go to the company page and you will immediately be able to see who your first degree connections are. It's a little easier to do it in Navigator. I don't know why, as much as I love LinkedIn, when you go to LinkedIn, you have to click on the company page, then you have to click on people, then you have to go and scroll over a little bit to get to first degree connections, but 17 clicks later, you'll be able to see it. Who do you know there? Don't get so hung up also on the idea that you have to know the exact buyer persona that you're trying to reach out to. Doesn't matter. If you know someone senior, or if you know somebody that you've got a great relationship with, let's say that is in a cross-functional or tethered role, ask them for an introduction, right? Even if I'm talking to somebody in sales ops or sales enablement or marketing or demand gen or communications, they probably associate with the people that we at samsales are trying to get into. CROs, enablement, VPs of sales. So how can I use those connections and that strong relationship to get in? Check this, because I promise you, you'll probably look in accounts and realize that people you have relationships with have transitioned accounts, your college roommates, your neighbors, your in-laws, whatever. We should probably know where our in-laws work, right? But you might realize where everybody's going. So do this quick check. Next, what are we going here? Past company. So check out this really cool thing that you can do in LinkedIn Sales Navigator. If you pop up open LinkedIn Sales Navigator at the very top, and you can do this kind of wonkily in LinkedIn.com too, but at the top of LinkedIn Sales Navigator, you've got something that is a URL. And I'm actually going to pop it open and just do a quick live demonstration so you guys see what I'm looking at right here. I will open this up to be a little bit bigger in just a second, and then we'll rock and roll. So check this out. This is so cool. This is what my homepage looks like, right? If I go to lead filters right here, this is a gold mine of leads. So you've got 30 different search criteria in here that you can use to run a bunch of searches. So in here, one of the things that I would do is pop open a past company, right? And what you want to put in this field is we want to look for anybody that previously worked for our top accounts. So let's say that we work with Marsh. Let's say that we work with Redis. Let's say we'll just leave it there, right? So let's put an IBM. So we're basically saying what we're querying LinkedIn Navigator with right now is to say, hey, tell me anybody who used to work for Marsh and tell me anyone who used to work for IBM. Cute, a million results. What I want to do is narrow this down. And the coolest hack that you can do, particularly if you work for a company that has CRM integration with Navigator, if you don't worry, we'll fix it, but is go right here to current company, click on this little plus sign here, and go to this very, very cool hack where it says my current accounts include. When you do this, you are basically custom curating a list that says, tell me anyone, any human on the planet, globally, title, agnostic, etc. We'll get to that. But tell me anyone that has previously worked for our best clients, clients that love us, clients that use us, clients that are on our customer advisory board, clients who, have sung our praises publicly. Tell us who's worked for those companies before and now works for my territory. And then the beautiful part is that you can start to segment. So job title, geography, tenure. Even if you say, I just want to know any CXO, right? Tell me the C-suite that used to work for our best clients, if any, and now currently work for my existing territory. You'll find so many people who have gone through a buying cycle with you, who have brand familiarity with you, even if they don't know who the hell you are. The cool thing that's going to happen here is that they're going to say, oh, well, my previous employer used you. Maybe I should use you too. If you're familiar with samsales, and we talk about show me, you know me that I referenced earlier, one of the other things we talk about is how important your subject line is in your outreach. So think of this, right? If I do a quick search and I say, let's say TransUnion is a client of samsales, a widely known client of samsales that we've worked with for 3 years. And let's say I find that someone has left TransUnion and now they work at, I don't know, Fidelity Insurance instead. If I just write TransUnion plus Fidelity plus hashtag samsales in my subject line, I'm going to stand out first and foremost, but they're going to say, well, that's my old employer. This is my current employer. I have no idea what the hell samsales is, but let me at least open up this email. And in that email, what an awesome way for me to say, I see you used to work for TransUnion. They've been a great client of ours for 3 years. I don't know if you came across this during your tenure there. Would love to talk to you about how we can help you in the same way. It's that easy. Really, really simple stuff. Now, what I want you to think about beyond this too is that running the search once isn't that hard, but let's save ourselves the effort and not run it ever again. So make sure you do this save search. You can save up to 15 different searches in here, so make them good. Don't worry, if one doesn't work for you, you can kick it out. But save the search and you'll get notified once a week every single time there are new leads that fit the existing criteria you put in. It is amazing. Okay, let's go back to our slide deck here and talk about our next hack. So next one, past company, your previous employer. Everything that I just showed you there, you want to do the exact same thing here in Navigator, but for who you used to work for previously. It's that easy. So I used to work for LinkedIn. I used to work for On24. Maybe I want to put Microsoft in there just because Microsoft is also an owner of LinkedIn. You can get wild, broad, narrow, whatever you want. But has anybody that previously worked for your same employer, for your alma mater of employers, if you will, do they currently work for your territory? This is also such an easy thing to open up. Here's why I love this as well. So when you think about previous employer, right, what does that also tell us? Even if we don't have common connections, even if we don't know that person, right, if we're not directly first connected to them, what this means is that we probably know people who know that person. If you worked for a company for 2 or 3 or 6 years, I think that was my longest tenure, 6 years, you probably, hopefully, are connected to a shootload of people that are connected to the other people that you want to get in front of. Let me pause here really quick. If you are not taking time to connect with the people that you work with, your cross-functional partners, your peers, your bosses' bosses, this is a great time to do that. as Thanksgiving comes up and we want to escape our families, spend more time with them. This is a homework assignment that you can do on the fly, right? Pop open LinkedIn and go to connect with all your coworkers. Make sure you hang on to them for, again, decades from now when you leave and you want to run searches like this. Even still, hopefully you were connected to old people from your previous employers. So pop over to Navigator for past company, list a previous employer or two where you hopefully have not burned a bridge and you still have good relationships, and then your current territory. Then start to dig into the title. Did anybody used to work for LinkedIn that currently works for my book of business where I can just use that as my show me, you know me? LinkedIn plus their existing company name plus hashtag samsales. See, we both worked at LinkedIn. While we didn't cross paths, I see that you know these 16 people, 3 of which are our clients, whatever you want to say. And then we just say, I would love your help, right? I'd appreciate, be grateful for your help in trying to get in to your account, either by you being the specific buyer persona we want to get in front of or by somebody you know. I will say all of these scripts are also in our prospecting playbook. So if you're like, what did she just say? It's in that playbook. So feel free to grab that. But this is so easy. And then to me, the easiest search of all in this, past company equals your current employer. So let's say I just got to LinkedIn. I'm a brand new rep. That's where I work right now. Who used to work for my company in my perhaps line of business, but even overall, that now works in my territory? Who probably still has stock in Microsoft and is, buying for our success? Who probably has still great relationships with us or loves our product, right? And wants to see us succeed. This is so simple. So in past company, just write LinkedIn or whatever company you work for. Current company, still your book of business, and then start to dive in. A really neat thing that you can do here as well, consider, is that you can also break this down by verticals. So if you work for an enormous company and you're like, where the hell do I start? Start by verticals. So maybe you say, well, I own oil and gas, I own pharma sales, and I own life sciences. So I'm going to do 3 different searches for this. People that work in an industry tend to switch jobs in that industry, right? If we're in tech or if we're in sales or marketing or whatever it is, we tend to stay in that same vertical of tech or life sciences, et cetera, as we change jobs. Our prospects are no different. No silver bullet, but a lot of people still stay in that same space. So create the search by vertical. Your past company perhaps is your top 20 pharma clients. And for current company, it's perhaps the 20 pharma clients that you're trying to prospect into. There's so much good stuff here. Now, final thing I would say is who knows whom. I think I got the grammar right on that. Here's what I would tell you. I think this is one of the coolest searches ever. This is a little complicated, so stay with me. But what we call this is an executive power hour. So what we do for this is very relatively simple. You as a leader or you as an individual contributor who wants to stand out, here's something really cool you can do. Grab your team, maximum of 10 people, and say, we're going to get together with 2 or 3 of our most connected senior leaders at our company. So perhaps you're an AE and you say, leader, I'd like to run this executive power hour. And I'd like to invite our VP of sales and maybe our CRO to this meeting. I want to pull apart their network. You're going to ask every AE on your team to come to this meeting with 2 accounts. That's it. We want to prioritize the larger accounts. If you're an SMB, bring 3 or 4 or 5, right? We're going to have a little bit more of a difficult time the smaller the accounts go. But certainly if you're an upper SMB, commercial or enterprise, killer thing to do. So everybody brings 2 accounts. We get in a room. And then what happens is we round robin through those accounts and we have everybody pull that up and see who, not that they know, but who they know that knows somebody else at that account. When you dig in, right, just like we did in Sales Navigator, if you go into, let's say, DuPont, and you say, well, let me see who I know that are these titles. You use those searches that I showed you on the left-hand side, and you start to dig in, what you're going to find is not only first-degree connections, which we should already know if our executives are first-degree connected to them, but what you're going to find is who they know that you are connected to. So you're going to find a slew of second-degree connections, maybe to the CRO, maybe the SVP, maybe to the CISO that you've been desperately trying to get in front of for 2 years. And you're going to find that you have common connections to that person. So your CRO might say, hey, I know 6 people who are connected to the CISO, and 3 of them I used to work with. 1 of them owes me a favor. I can definitely reach out to this person. The very first time that we ran this, we came up with 14 different contacts in 60 minutes, 14 different contacts, 9 meetings were booked, and 4 deals were closed within 60 days. It's a little complicated. All the instructions are in our playbook as well, but this is so valuable. And I want to tell you just one other success story here. So having recently taken over a team, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago at a company called On24, I asked this team, right, as a leader, and I said, who are you guys trying to get in front of? And one of the individuals on my team, Rachel, said, Morningstar. I've been trying to crack into Morningstar Financial forever. So I said, well, let me see who we know. I didn't know anybody, but I knew someone that knew the person we wanted to get in front of. Exactly what I just laid out. I had no first degree connections in there, but I had second degree connections, and I had common connections with our key buyer persona. Let's call him Florin. So I'm like, oh, I know somebody who knows Florin. And Rachel's like, good luck. We have been trying to get in front of him for 2.5 years and we can't. And I'm like, all right, well, let's just give this a shot. So I texted the person, my buddy Ken, and I said, do you know Florin? And he said, I'm in his cousin's kitchen having brunch right now. What do you need? And I'm like, and I said, well, we need a meeting. And he's like, ugh, okay. So then Ken goes to Florin and says, can you meet with these people? And Florin says, absolutely not. These people have been at me for 2.5 years. I have no interest in changing platforms. I do not want to meet with them, but I will do it as a favor to you. And if it means we'll go away, they will go away. And I said, we'll go away. Just give us the meeting. Rachel turned this into a multi-year, multi-million-dollar record-breaking deal for On24 just because we were able to look at this. So tell you what a killer way for you to stand out. And this isn't something you have visibility into. You can see who your executives know to the first degree. That you can see just by being connected to them on LinkedIn, but you can't see who they know that's connected to your buyer persona. So definitely take advantage of this. This is also a killer thing to do, either during the slower days of Thanksgiving week, or think about this as a really cool spiff, or not spiff, blitz that you guys can do starting the first of the year. So do this as soon as you guys come back from the holidays, right? When things are a little bit quieter. Holy cannoli, the pipeline that you will uncover. Okay, with that, I will stop talking for just a second and we'll pop over to Q&A, and I'll pass it over to Catherine to take any questions that come in, have come in or came in before, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Okay, so the first question that we have is, how do you prospect when offering professional services? At the end of the day, we're selling people.
Welcome to the club. So I don't think it really changes when we prospect professional services, right? This is something, whether you are an attorney, whether you're a consultant, whether you're an accountant, there's something of value that we bring to the table. And I think if we think about it from the samsales perspective, right, there are, at the end of the day, we are sales trainers and consultants and LinkedIn experts. Join the club, right? There's, I don't know, 100,000 of us probably that do the exact same thing that we do. So one of the things that I would think about as you prospect is, what is your value proposition? And it's not like, oh, we're great trainers. So is everybody else, theoretically. What is it that's specific to you? Why do you exist? What value do you bring? What's specific to you? I want to talk about this just even in the non-professional services space. So even if you sell tech or a widget or a platform or analytics of some kind, I want you to think about what it is that you say that you do. And then what I want you to ask yourself, if you guys follow me on LinkedIn, you're definitely sick of hearing me say this, but I want you to ask yourself, so what? So we have an awesome user interface. So what? We have incredible analytics. So what? Our integrations are world-class. So what? That's what you really need to think about, because when you're prospecting, right, even if you find the right person, at the end of the day, what's the value you bring? Why should they spend time with you? How are you going to write something compelling enough in your email that's going to make them say, time with you would be well spent? Of the other 20 to 30 sales emails that I got today, time with you is going to be well spent. The other thing that I would say is referrals for professional services are a fantastic starting point. So I don't know what the question asker sells, but I'll give you just a great example. Maybe daily on LinkedIn, I get pings from financial advisors, professional services, right? Sam, we would love to manage the $6 in your bank account. And I'm like, you and everybody else. But here's the thing that you want to think about with that. Why should I give you time, right? What is it about you when you prospect? How do you get my attention? So perhaps you've identified me for whatever criteria you're looking at as somebody that would be a great candidate for you to manage my $6. When you think about that though, how are you going to stand out? How are you going to convince me that that 30 minutes is going to be worth my time? And what I would tell you is, one, work through referrals first, because I actually just changed financial advisors for the first time in like 14 years. And it was based on a referral. I didn't respond to a single one of those people that reached out to me. Instead, I went to my network and I said, who do you guys know? Instead of waiting for Sam to go to Bill and then find you, think about how you can use referrals and maximize that out. Let me give you just a quick example, and then I'll go back to the financial advisor piece. When you think about your referrals, we do them not in a great way. Number one, we wait for the reactive ones, Sam to go to Bill to come to you. The other thing that we do is we say, hey, Josie, I know you love working with us and that's awesome. Can you think of anybody else that could use us? And Josie's like, not right now, but I'll keep you in mind. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so exciting. Josie's going to keep you in mind. And she's like, yeah, I'm going to get on a plane later and I'm going to forget about you. And then I'm going to be stuck with Thanksgiving dinner. And I'm going to be like, great. Instead, what I want to do is to say, Josie, since you love working with us and you've given us so many compliments, do you mind if I look at your LinkedIn network? Could I send you a few names of people that you know that we would love to meet as well, right? Or they'd be great samsales clients. And can you let me know if you know any of them well enough that you'd be willing to make an introduction? And Josie's gonna be like, that sounds like the perfect lazy approach and I don't have to do anything. You got it, have at it, right? When we do that, we're taking the reins into our control. I don't want to know who Josie thinks I should meet. I want to look at who she knows and I want to decide for myself who we should get to know. So just a great way you can spend referrals and go proactively out there. Back to the financial advisor piece, right? What do you do that is different when you do your outreach? So I'd love to manage your money, you and everybody else. What is it that's different about you? Teach me something. Tell me something that maybe I'm not doing, right? At the end of the year, everybody talks about tax harvesting. Maybe my financial advisor hasn't thought about tax harvesting. So maybe what you say is, if you're not tax harvesting, you really should be, and here's why it matters to you. Ask your advisor, make sure you're doing this. Now, you've just given me free advice, but when I go to my advisor and I say, are we tax harvesting? And he says, oh yeah, that's a good idea. I'm like, what the hell else are you not doing that this guy knows how to do that you don't know how to do? So consider that, right? That's also what we want to do when we're reaching out with any of our sales emails. We want to prove that FUD, right? That fear, uncertainty, and doubt, that we know things and we're doing things in a way that you're not doing right now, or that your existing vendor isn't telling you what to do, and you should really be working with us instead. I could talk about that forever. As I'm getting cold call after cold call, you guys, right now. Prospect online, write great emails. I promise it works better. Okay, Catherine, on to the next question.
Okay, how can you best leverage your own professional network when your SDR is doing the majority of the outreach and prospecting? So
yeah, just like us. Was this question by Jersey? So I think just a couple of things to consider here, right? Again, this is such a cliche word, but your network is your net worth, right? Your network is your net worth. Think about how you are proactively first connecting with people and building that on LinkedIn. For those of you who are not, here's a very simple tactic that you can do. Number one, think of if this, then that for every time you connect with someone, every time you book a meeting. If I book a meeting, then I'm connecting with that person on LinkedIn. So take a pause. Our kind of 3-point move is we respond to anybody who requests with gratitude, we send the meeting invite over, and then we connect on LinkedIn. And you simply say, let's say I'm booking a meeting with Catherine. Catherine, really looking forward to our meeting on Friday. Wanted to stay in touch here as well. Talk to you then. Side note, let's say Catherine invites Josie. I can see that she accepts the invite. It comes through my inbox. I can see that. I can check the invite in advance. And then I'm like, who's Josie? So make sure you also connect with Josie, right? And then you want to add context to that invite. Please, for the love of all things, do not go and do blank connection requests. We never want to do that. If you really want to think about this selfishly for yourself, this gives you a chance to also say a cheat code of how you know that person. So add the context in that connection request. But for Josie, I would say, Josie, really excited that Catherine invited you to our meeting on Friday. Looking forward to seeing how samsales can be of support. Thought I'd say hello here. Because if I email Josie or connect with her and I do the standard thing that reps do, what I'm going to do is say, Josie, looking forward to Friday. I'm just gonna be like, who the hell are you? And I'll be like, oh yeah, okay. So make sure to add that context, right? And make it easy for that person. The other thing is you may want to think about just sharing your LinkedIn credentials with your BDR. Now you want to be mindful, right? They will have access to your everything. They will be able to post on your behalf. They'll see your DMs for better or worse, right? Like, so just be mindful of that, but you might want to share it. pretty much everybody at samsales has access to my LinkedIn account. So just lots of trust here on our side, but we want to leverage those relationships. I want people to be able to go in and see who I know, what I've done, what messaging I've done. A really cool hack. Sorry for any of you guys who have received outreach from Josie and now you know our secrets, but the cool hack that we do is when we get an inbound lead or we get a HubSpot lead or we get something, right? Someone's downloaded a document or something on our side and we're like, ooh, this is good. Instead of Josie having to come to me every single time and saying, Sam, how do you know Bill Johnson? I can be like, just look at my LinkedIn. So Josie can log into my LinkedIn, she'll click on messaging and she'll see, do I know this person well? Are they just a Sam fan? Are they a follower? Do we have a great relationship? Is this my father-in-law? Right before she sticks her foot in her mouth, she can go and check there and do that early sleuthing. But that's one of the things I would do. And then I would also make sure you're teaching them these hacks, right, of prospecting so they can log in either to their own navigator or yours and dive in. Final thing I would say is make sure to list share. If you have LinkedIn Sales Navigator and you have a corporate account, you can create these really wonderful lists, people that you want to target, people you want to comment on, social selling that you want to do, and you can share them with your whole team. You can share them with your BDR. So definitely take advantage of that if you're not already doing it. Cool. Thanks, Catherine.
So in the time of fun and creative titles, how would you suggest cracking into the right person at larger companies specifically, since everyone seems a bit random, marketing partner versus marketing manager and so forth?
Yeah, Catherine, sorry, it froze on me for just a second. Can you repeat the question just real quick?
Yeah. When you're trying to crack into a larger account, how can you ensure you're reaching out to the right person? Because it seems like everyone's titles are so random. It could be a marketing partner versus a marketing manager.
That is a super fun thing. Deciphering who is actually responsible for what you want them, what you need them to be responsible for. I would say a few things. Hopefully, you guys have identified what your buyer personas are and what your ideal client profile looks like. Just in case we've got any newbies on the phone, ideal client profile, ICP, right, is what your ideal client looks like. So let's say we are, we're B2B company. We're obviously not looking maybe for, consumers. We're not doing that. We're looking for businesses. And let's say that we really excel in tech and medical devices. Again, that's our ideal client profile. And then the buyer persona can be a really tricky thing to identify, not only from a title perspective, but you need a lot of data and historical data to be able to do this. So if you're a startup, you might not actually know who to reach out to yet. And you're like, it's still so ambiguous. You've only been in business for 36 months. How if we know who our buyer persona is? But if you've been around for a long time, you should have an idea of what those titles look like and who to reach out to. Now, with the ambiguity, there's still going to be some kind of thread, right? So for example, at samsales, one of the things that we do is we build voices for executives on LinkedIn. More often than not, we're going after chief communications officer roles, product marketing roles, but sometimes we go after chief of staff roles, right? Sometimes we go after VP of sales that are trying to promote a great thing to do for inbound leads, but you should still have your core available. So I would think about the core first, right? Look for those titles and reach out to those individuals as a starting point. Couple of things that I would think about first, right? Just to make your life easier. Without any other data or insight or anything like that of who knows who, any of the tricks in Navigator that I'll talk about in a second, my first piece of advice to you would be to go high in title. And I think a lot of people, particularly our younger sellers, particularly younger BDRs, are like, that sounds really scary. I don't want to do that. And I'm like, pony up, we're going to do it. So what I would say is go to the highest title that will probably be involved in your buying process. So this might be somebody who has budget, who is eventually going to be part of the buying decision, and start with them. So maybe I would start with the CRO of $100 million company, or even a $500 million company, if that applies to me. That is terrifying. What if they ask questions that I can't respond to, right? What do I do there? What if I say something stupid? You won't, don't worry. And who cares if they say something that you can't respond to? That's the beauty of email, is that you can get a bunch of your friends to help you plagiarize and write the right response back, hopefully your boss. But start there. We tend to go one level up, right? The person that we report to title-wise, or we're comfortable going skip level to their boss. And what that really does is it makes it where we're going into kind of middle management typically, right? And then we're working our way up to that CRO. Work your way up and then start up and then work your way down. There's an analogy that talks about like it's easier to go down the stairs than up, and I hate it, but it's really true. So start at the very top. what I would tell you there is this is where show me you know me makes such a difference. If you are brand new to us and now it's the only a third time you've heard it, pop over to LinkedIn and the very top of your URL, click on hashtag SMYKM. That is where you're going to find a lot of posts on what show me you know me is and how to do it correctly. But at the end of the day, if the most important thing I can tell you here is to focus on your subject line. So when you look for that CRO, you look for that top person, what can you authentically connect with on with them? What is it? Where did they go to school? Where do they live? What do they have on your about section? A good friend of mine that used to be a rep on my team is a guy named Josh Atkins. Josh Atkins is a general manager at a company called Qualtrics. If anybody is trying to go after Qualtrics and Josh is your guy, look at his about section on his LinkedIn. He tells you, if you are a BDR and you want to book a meeting with me, here's how you do that. Here's what you can talk about. Shakespeare, Ireland, being a deadhead. It is right there. So take a look at that stuff, right? Start at the top. And the coolest thing about this, right? When you might also be thinking, well, how do I scale this? I'll tell you this in a second. The coolest thing about this is that the higher you go in the title and the bigger you go in the company, right? The more sales emails they're getting every single day. So by you taking the time to do some research on them, writing a compelling subject line and standing out, you're going to stand out. So if you wrote something for me, right, I've talked about this a lot. If you wrote speeding tickets, I've had a few, plus Barefoot Contessa, or plus Nickelodeon game show, plus whatever your company name is, I'm going to not know what your company name is probably, but I'm going to know that you did your research, and I'm at least going to open up your email, frankly, just to see what you wrote. And executives are pretty much the same. Final thing that I would say there, if you do that work, right, for those specific titles, the core ICP, the great thing is that most people will write you back, right? They'll at least open up your email, you're building a better brand. But the ones that write you back, even if they say, hey, thanks for reaching out, great email, this isn't my department, you have a great open door now to saying, can you point me in the right direction? And I want to close this question on this thought. Usually when we ask for help, we say, no worries, thanks for your response. Do you know who the right buyer is? And the person's like, that's your job, bye. And they don't respond. So we also talk at samsales about something called hashtag semantics matter. And it's not semantics, it's semantics, the right spelling, but semantics matter. And just a few changing of your words and repositioning can go a long way. So what I would say here is to think about this. You reach out to your ideal buyer persona. They respond, say, great email, not my territory. And you respond and say, first of all, thank you so much for responding. As you know, it's a challenge to even get a response. I really appreciate it. Second of all, given the size of your organization and the ambiguity in titles, it's really hard for us to identify who the right buyer is. Would you mind pointing me in the right direction? I'd also be happy to not use your name and not tell anyone who sent me if you'd prefer, but I'd really appreciate some guidance. Who can say no to that? Only a monster. So think about those simple scripts, right? How that can really change things. And I slipped in saying it earlier, but I'll just kind of go back to one thing. I try to avoid using I'd love. I'd love it if you can point me in the right direction. I bet you would. So instead, what I like to think about is I'd be grateful for, or I'd be appreciative of the time if you took the time to point me in the right direction. Two words you can change, grateful and appreciative. People can't be mean and not be responsive to somebody who'd be grateful for that. So a couple of changes there. Okay, Catherine, next questions on our side.
Yep. So we covered a lot just now. So a good question that came in was, this seems like a lot of work. How often should I be doing this? Time should I be devoting per week?
This is a lot of work. I would say a few things. One, we talk about full cycle reps a lot, right? So a full cycle rep, if you're not aware, is a person that does the full cycle of selling, from prospecting to discovery call to the nurturing to the closing proposal, the whole 9 yards, right? A lot of people say that's a lot of work. I have a BDR for this. I have marketing. I have inbound, right? Like, why would I even put the time into this? And here's what I would tell you. Having broken so many records over the course of my career, made a ton of money, there's not a shot in hell I would leave my success in the hands of somebody else. So prospecting to me is a no-brainer because I want to control, because I am a control freak. I want to control my success. I want to know whether or not I'm going to hit my number at the end of the year and make the amount of money that I want to make based on what I do versus relying on whether or not my demand gen team has their act together, whether there's great enough product market fit that we get inbound, or whether my BDR is good or not. If you caught yourself saying, I don't get enough leads from marketing, or if you caught yourself saying my BDR isn't up to par, the only thing I would say back to you is, what are you doing to get yourself there without relying on them? This is a lot of work, but we're also paid, hopefully, really well in sales to do this work. The thing that I love about our profession is that the smarter we are and the talents that we bring, and frankly, the effort that we bring to this, the more money we can make. You can make more money in sales than you ever dreamed if you just put in the work. What I would say also with this work is that, yes, this is a lot of work, but once you have kind of a rhythm going and you've done your digging, identify 5-6 hours a week that you spend on prospecting. It's a lot of work, 5 or 6 hours a week that you spend on prospecting. But if you use these tactics, right, these things that are kind of just obvious, who knows who's worked here, et cetera, you will find that you will book so many meetings, get so much intel out of it faster, right, and in less effort than you did before. Not only that, you'll see the success, you'll be motivated, and you'll start to wonder, what else can I do? And you'll really set fire to your process. Other thing that I would say, right, and kind of thinking about digging into these large accounts, use your relationships like they're going out of style, right? Who knows who? How are you connected internally, externally? Start to mine the contacts of your executives. Like, there is so much gold there that will get you all to these introductions without much work. One of the coolest examples I have is there's a woman by the name of Michelle who came onto Microsoft. She was recruited to Microsoft in order to do the closing of the acquisition of LinkedIn. As we all do, she got a $9 million signing bonus when she came on board to make this acquisition happen. One of my reps, right, 700 levels below, maybe a little less, below Michelle at Microsoft, reached out to Michelle and said, hello, I'm an AE on this team at LinkedIn. Could you help me get in front of this person that you seem to know? Who is the person going to respond to more? My AE or Michelle, who got a $9 billion signing bonus to come on to Microsoft? Michelle. Don't be afraid to go up and up and up. Don't be afraid to talk to your leader and say, I want to reach out to this really scary title at our parent company. Can you look at what I wrote and see if it's okay before I do that? Because what's amazing is the higher you go, the more tenure they have, and frankly, the higher title and more power they have, the quicker people respond to that person. Because frankly, you just want to suck up to that person and have that person owe them a favor back. Rock that stuff out all day long. Prospecting does not have to be hard.
Love that. Okay. So speaking specifically to some of the comments you've made about leveraging personal relationships,
Yeah.
a specific example of maybe some of the wording you would use if you were looking at an acquaintance with someone who's high up at one of your prospects, but you're not sure how to frame the ask to use them as a referral?
Yeah, so let's see. I'm trying to think if I got this question right. So I'm reaching out to someone that I know, but I don't know well at an account, right? Okay, perfect. I would still focus on my subject line. So maybe I'm reaching out to somebody that I met at a conference a few years ago. We had a memorable conversation about, I don't know, something. But the exchange is there in our LinkedIn, right? Because I obviously connected with that person. I'd probably go to LinkedIn first and message them there that's the starting point, because we've already had a conversation there. I can DM them, right, and hopefully get a response. Second thing I would do is the email, but let's focus on the DM first. So the DM to me would be, Bill, it's been 3 years since we've had at our conference. You probably don't remember our riveting conversation about stinky cheeses, but it sticks in my mind. Hope you've been well. Wanted to see if I can ask your help for something. Realizing you don't know much about me, our style, or even what our product is at XYZ company. We've been really trying to get into your existing organization. I wonder if I could steal a few minutes of your time to talk to you about what we do and see if you happen to know anybody that could make use of our product, or see if you have good relationships with these kinds of titles that we're trying to get in front of. Probably write it a little bit more eloquently than that. So that's just off the cuff, the top of my brain. The other thing that I would say is a lot of the times you're asking for something before you've earned the right to do that. So consider that you might use messaging as well to say, Bill, it's been a long time. Realize I'm asking you for a favor before I've done anything to pay it forward, but wonder if I could steal some of your time. Even just the EQ and acknowledgement of like, I realize I'm asking you for something and we just met 3 years ago, is great. Think about what you would do in your personal lives as well, right? So I think like one of the things that you can consider there is Now, let's say you moved to a new city, you met a new friend, and all of a sudden, like you're stuck somewhere, or you need a ride, or you don't really need a ride anymore because there's Ubers. But like you need help. You kind of squint with one eye, right? But we wouldn't say like, "Hey, can you help me move?" We'd be like, "I realize we barely know each other, and I'm asking you for help, but would you help me move?" Right? Make sure that you lead with that. That EQ goes a long way. I'd maybe start there and go about it that way. Great question.
Okay, so what if you have a great prospect and a lead pops up on one of these lists that you've made in Sales Navigator, but they're not in your territory?
Oh, I would be of help. So here's what I would think. One of the things that I did early on was posting a lot on LinkedIn. So I started posting on LinkedIn in 2011. I really probably hit the gas in like 2014, 15, something around there. And one of the things that happened is that it turned into a lead machine for us. Now, thankfully, it turns into a lead machine at samsales, but it turned into a lead machine for me at my previous companies. And most of the opportunities were not in my territory. Great. So I might find a job change. I might find something in one of these lists. I might have an inbound lead where somebody would say, I love your posts. Like, hey, like we could actually use your services. Who can we talk to? I'd immediately run to Salesforce. I would look and see. And of course, the person would not be in my territory. Here's a really cool thing that you can do though. One, it takes time for you to do that. So for you to respond and say, absolutely, can you pass me your email and I'll get it to the right team? That takes time. It's not a lot of time, but it takes time. So I would do the response, I would take the lead, and I would proudly go to the leader of that team and say, because of this, or I noticed that, or I proactively saw this, I wanted to let you know this job change happened, right? And wanted to send this lead to you, whatever that might be. Sure, you can route it to your team. What a great way for you to get visibility to that leader instead of just send it to the rep, who might not even respond with a thank you, by the way, but sure as hell isn't going to tell their leader more often. So go to the leader first and send it that way. I would also BCC your boss. Make sure that they know that you're doing it. The second thing that I would do is I would track the shit out of this. So create a Google sheet, right? If this is happening to you a lot, or if you're already going above and beyond, like I always did, right? To be a teacher's pet, but then also just to be of help, keep track of it. Because here's a cool thing that'll happen. If you are killing it in your territory, in your account, and you're also driving all this stuff, we want to make sure that people know about it. When you get to your review, right, at the end of the year, when you prep for that, if it's a mid-year review, what an awesome chance for you to say, here's everything I've done, but also here are the 17 opportunities that I ended up driving. Here's the pipeline that I was able to create. Here's the meetings that I was able to create. And of those 17 opportunities, 4 closed for this amount of money. You're welcome. You're so lucky to have me. Don't say that stuff, right? But what a great way to stand out. The other thing that I would say, right, why you want to go to that leader, a lot of organizations do reviews in different ways. So one of my previous companies, the way we did reviews is we did all of our reviews in advance as the leader. And then we had to get together with our peers, so maybe our 5 or 6 or 7 other leaders, and we basically did a tear down of every single person on our team, the review that we were giving them, why we wanted to give them a raise, and then everybody else got to weigh in on if they agreed with them. Does that person on your team help our team? Do I proactively see them contribute to conversations? There's so much there. So if you're going to the leader, and then let's say I, as a leader, go and say, like, I want to give Sam a raise. The other leaders who say, we get nonstop leads from Sam. She's amazing, right? Like when you get those accolades, great visibility, great way to build those cross-functional relationships as well, and great way for people to talk about you in a positive way when you're not in the room. Not every lead, right, is going to be worth your time also. So be mindful of that. But be a great steward. And what you're going to do is hopefully inspire people to do the same thing.
Awesome. So
Could talk about this forever, you guys.
anything else to what you just said? So the next one, just quickly going back to show me, you know me, what if you run into a roadblock with what to write as far as that goes, if you're not seeing anything immediately on LinkedIn or their website that comes to mind?
Yeah, I think this is another just great thing to work hopefully with your leader on. And if you're like, my leader's not good at that, find other peers, find top performers that you can align with, find a mentor or sponsor that you can ask that has been wildly successful at your company before and you can get help with. But what I would tell you is there's such a great repository of information to be found. Not every organization and person has a ton of information on their websites, on their LinkedIn, et cetera. But the first place I would start obviously is LinkedIn. What is on there that we can use? common connections, previous companies, where they went to school, where they grew up, anything in their about section. If you go to their LinkedIn profile and there is literally a tumbleweed going by and you're like, where do I go from here? Go to their site. And their site, you're going to be able to find hopefully something there, right? If it's a mid-market SMB commercial size company, there should still be great information for you to use. What are their values? What are their principles? Do they invest in charitable giving? What do they do, right, that you can align with? But more importantly, what's going on with the business that you can find in the news and the resources section of how you align and how you solve a challenge. Let me give you an example. One of our clients is in the UK and they were going after a bank that announced, they basically just couldn't crack into it. And so they're like, what do I do? There's nothing on these profiles. There's nothing on the website. I don't know what to do. This is a social listening company that we supported. And so we said, well, let's look at the website. Let's see what we can find. And one of the things that we found is that they had a press release and they talked about how I think in the next 4 years, they want to double their revenue and they're a pretty massive company already. So doubling the revenue is a big thing. So my question, right, was how do we double their revenue? What's their path to that? What's the roadmap to doubling the revenue? How do you fit into that? That's your show me, you know me. Doubling your revenue by 2027 using XYZ company. There's a great subject line, right? This isn't a compelling event. This is really digging in to find out what's going on with the company and being able to use that. I want to note the compelling event piece really quick. So if you have been in sales for some time, you've heard these words. What's a compelling event, right? Or use a compelling event. A compelling event is something compelling that happens to the company. So perhaps they raised a Series B round, perhaps they went public, perhaps they something right, massive happened. And what reps will do is use that. So we've talked about this before, but like as Tesla as an example, right? Tesla had 5 straight quarters of positive earnings and won the S&P 500. That's a compelling event. So should you use that in your outreach? No. Why? Because everybody's using that in their outreach. Congrats on your job change. Congrats on your Series B. Congrats on the S&P 500. Stand out. So dig a little bit deeper and find something you can connect with, right? What this company was looking for with this particular bank, right, is they were looking for something that aligned directly with social listening. What you really want to find is their goals and their business challenges and how your product solves that. So that's what you can find on the site. Final thing that I would say there, I know we have time for one more question, but consider the individuals you're reaching out to. The higher you go, the more information there is, right, on the ability to find articles they've been in, things that they've promoted, where they've been interviewed, podcasts they've been on. Use their language. I want to give you just one quick example as we wrap up today. So if you are trying to reach to, let's say, the CEO of LinkedIn, right, a gentleman by the name of Ryan who lives in the Bay Area. LinkedIn is a 15,000 person company. By most standards, they're not even enterprise, right? They're mid-commercial, mid-market. Again, everybody defines it differently. But how do you get someone like Ryan's attention? What you do is you Google and you find information, articles, things that he's talked about. He has his own podcast. Listen to it, right? Pull his words or pull information out of there. But one really cool thing that you can do is, again, dig a little deeper. So there's a great article that Ryan is cited in that is in the Financial Times, and it's basically how he buys as a CEO. The entire piece of how he actually buys is right there. It's a cheat sheet to how to sell to Ryan. But if you look at the very top of the article, there's a picture of him and there's a tiny caption under the picture. And it talks about the fact that he makes small pivots before making basically big bets. So you could write in a subject line to someone like Ryan and say small pivots, make a small pivot with us, right? Or you could do quote unquote small pivots plus something else in your subject line that you heard on his webcast, plus your company name. He'll know the first 2 things. Make sure small pivots is in quotes so he knows it's his quote. Plus whatever the second thing is you found, plus your company name. He'll probably open up that email even if he doesn't respond. So look for that information. It's a lot of work. Man, does it pay off, and it works. I'd close by telling you this. 1, this really is easy, right? If you start to think about these smart and strategic things that we talked about, again, look at the prospecting playbook if you haven't already. Take advantage of our discount. I think that runs through the end of the day today. But the other thing that I would say is put in the effort for show me, you know me. If you've been listening this week to the news, you know that Gmail made a huge change, right? And they will in January of 2024 to how spam and how mass spam emails happen. So if you are using spray and pray techniques, right, and you're sending 5,000 emails a week or 500 emails a week, it's going to get really, really tough to get into people's inboxes. Start to practice your show me, you know me now. Use these techniques that we talked about today for prospecting. If you start to do that now before things hit the fan, I was going to use a different word. It's Friday. We're fine. But if you do that now, you're going to find such a great impact to your results with all the work that you put in. All right, I will close out here. You guys, thank you so much for spending some of your Friday with us. Hope this was helpful, albeit quick. And if you haven't said hello on LinkedIn yet, please do. Would love to stay connected. I appreciate you guys joining. And thanks, Catherine and Josie, for the help today. Thanks. Bye, you guys. Have a good one. Happy weekend. Happy Thanksgiving. Bye, everyone.